Hi, and welcome to the ECM podcast. I'm Friedrich Kunzmann, and I'm happy to be hosting this newest episode of the podcast and take you behind the scenes of new music on ECM Records. Today I'm joined by the Norwegian trumpeter Arve Henriksen and Dutch pianist Harmen Fraanje, whose duo debut, Touch of Time, presents the musicians in both freely improvised forms and carefully wrought themes, picking up and finishing each other's phrases. They talk about their approach to improvising, how Touch of Time represents exactly where they meet in music, and about how various literature informed the titles on this album. Arve and Harmen, thank you guys for joining me in the podcast. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thank you for being
Thanks
here.
for the invitation. Yes.
Yes.
Touch of Time is the name of the album and the title track, which was written by you, Harmen. We just heard part of it as the intro to the podcast. It has a timeless, melancholy melody framed in deeply romantic harmonies. Is this a composition that you wrote explicitly with Arve's voice in mind?
I think I could imagine that I would have done that, but I was but it's a recent composition that I wrote, but it's more around some progression that I really loved harmonically. Actually, very simple, but to me it had a lot of expression. Somehow the progression of the chords, and then the melody came out, and then when Arve and I started to look for material besides the improvisation that we do, I thought this could be a very good fit. So we tried it out, and we both seemed to like it.
Yeah. The very first time you two played together was at the ECM 50th anniversary concert in Utrecht, Netherlands in 2019. Though you've both previously recorded extensively for ECM. You, Harmen, with the bassist Mats Eilertsen, and you, Arve, in a bunch of contexts with Trygve Zaim, Tigran Hamasyan, Christian Wallumrød, Arild Andersen, and so on. So when you first played together, were you very aware of each other's past work, and did that play into your musical conversations?
Yes, I think so. We have been sort of meeting at the airport somewhere and meeting. We have common friends, of course, and we've been. I mean, the first time we met is way back in time when I played in Tilburg with Super Silent, I think, and Harmen was a teenager, I suppose. Well, we were really, really young, and I had played the concert, and then we had a small jam session in the corner of the room after some after Nachspiel, yeah. And but it was that was the first time we actually played together, and then it took, 30 years? No, I don't. A long time before we sort of got together, but I think I've been to concerts with Harmen and with Mats Eilertsen Trio and the collaboration with Trio Medieval. So, and I also heard a lot of recordings with this gentleman. So, of course, I have heard his piano playing, and I think also the approach to music, the approach to how to sort of blend and the search and then curiosity for sounds and how to sort of orchestrate this small setting has for both of us been quite interesting path. And I also heard way back in time, I heard, was it in Den Bosch you played with Enrico Rava? Was that a concert?
Yes.
I passed it and heard a little bit of that, so I've sort of have had an idea of his playing for a long time. So when we met in 2019 in Utrecht, it was like, we went on stage and
it just immediately clicked.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of kind of sequences of music that we just it felt so great and natural, and I think that is this approach from Harmen is quite similar to my in a way. I'm not composing that much, pre-composing a lot of things. I'm just jumping in on others' compositions and try to add what I find interesting to add to it. And Harmen has this fantastic composition sort of path, and I can sort of, the material is very open, and the thing is with Harmen, he's really generous and open-minded. So then it's quite easy for any musician to just come in and join his universe. So and that's what I felt from the first time in Utrecht, and this is also what we've been doing and when we recorded it was the same approach to it, and also the curiosity that Harmen has for when I add some electronical sounds and all that stuff. He seems to be quite curious, and also it was quite fun because you added some stuff, or you bought some electronics, Harmen, right? After our meeting.
Yes, sure.
So you were inspired.
Yeah.
It will take some time for me to get into the level of intuition with it, but still, it's very.
Would you say you've arrived there at that level of intuition with electronics?
Not yet. No. Not like with a piano, you know?
Yeah, well, I feel like, Arve, you just answered a question I had in mind that is very closely related to that. When we talked previously, Harmen, you'd mentioned that you consider Touch of Time to be exactly where you both meet in music. And I was going to ask you if you could explain that more precisely, but I guess that's pretty much it. You approach the music from a similar angle, and the space between improvisation and composition, and how you search for the right notes, and the right touch, and the right timbre. I guess that's where you meet. There are 2 other tracks on the record that you wrote, Harmen, Redream and What All This Is. So the rest is pretty much freely improvised, I assume. You recorded this album at the Auditorio Stelio Molo in Lugano, and you go into that room and decide to lay down something, and you don't know where it's going to go. What does that canvas look like exactly? Is it just blank, and you start putting brushstrokes on there, and it becomes something, or are there more preconceived ideas than that?
No, I think for both of us, the moment, the very moment, is so important in music. So I can tell you actually about something about what all this is, because that piece I actually wrote thinking about Arve.
All right.
Also, since Arve told about our first meeting, I remember also this meeting that I had listened so much to his music, and I was a fan, you know, of his work and his sound especially as well. So when we had this little session somewhere at the Paradox at 1 o'clock in the night, I could not believe that actually this sound that I always heard on the albums was just now coming
from right next to you, basically.
Yes, it was really a beautiful experience, and it. When Manfred invited us to make this album, I started to imagine how it would be to play, to do this together, and then this whole What All This Is piece came out very naturally. It's very simple. I mean, I don't write composition that they should be played as good as possible, or as well, or perfectly executed. No, it's more a tool for us to meet somewhere, you know, and that gives us a kind of direction, and then still we can do something else.
As a bit of a framework, like a foundation, and then you see what happens, basically.
Yes.
And then compositions like The Dark Light or Mirror Images, how do those become in the studio? Is it just really freely improvised in the moment, or do you talk about specific ideas in advance? Do you have something to riff off of?
No, it is. I think it's a blend of expectations in the moment also, because if you I mean, many of these songs comes out of the session there and then, and I think the compositions that were already prepared for the session and all the other ideas that we'd be sort of planning in a way, we'd be talking about maybe using some Chopin music or some other stuff, but that never happened. But I mean, the preparation of improvisation is quite important, I think, because very often people look at improvisation as just something, we play for blah blah blah, we take this tone and then we take another one, you know. In the moment it can look like that, but I think there's a lot of, I've been working with improvisation as a tool for orchestration and to orchestrate music for many years. And I think since I started to play the instrument, the improvisation has been a natural part of my playing and of my sort of musicianship in all kinds of settings. You know, there's always some touch of improvisation around it. And so I think there is, of course, we can look at the moment there as a sort of separate thing, but it's connected to all the music that we played. So the impact from our colleagues like Mats Eilertsen or Jan Bang or Ivan Orset or you name them all. I mean, everyone is a part of, in a way, my playing. Because building up into this session, of course, preparing, we had some phone calls. We have also played some concerts after 2019. So we gradually have built a sort of understanding of how to meet how in the musical universe. And I think that's so of course it could be like a scale, it could be like some chord progression, and some of these compositions, when you listen to them now, they could have been written, you know, and then we play them because they are very precise in a way. There's not so much what can I say?
Well, they have a design. There's a design to them.
There is. There's a form, and there's some sort of tension to it. You know, we very often talk about there's some transportation parts where we just wait for things to develop and to happen. And I think this in this recording session, I felt that it was a lot of, you know, really happening music. It was not that much sort of rubbish that we threw in a way, because we just kept a lot of tension to the play.
It's very concentrated, yeah.
And also I must, you know, the way of Harmen's, I mean, this last piece, Passing on the Past, how you sort of work with, instead of putting in a lot of ideas, that's very often in improvisation, you add too many ideas.
For sure.
That's so cool with when I've been working with Harmen. It's these years, I think you have more and more got clearer and clearer in your playing when we talk about the improvisation things. It's really sort of you don't add in a lot of elements.
It feels like a distillation already. Like it's been distilled.
Absolutely, and that's the word. And to be able and have the guts to be distillated in improvisation and to make a very clear orchestration with it. It's that was so easy on this recording session, and also that we were so focused for this session. On, of course, there's a lot of tension to it, and it's recording for with Manfred all at the place, you know, and his guidance and his charisma. It's always helping, and it's always inspiring. So I mean, and then you just so I think this recording session was quite successful, and I think this the clarity of the music that came out of these improvisations, I'm really satisfied with it, you know. Also like that it is, as you say, distillated, and it's very much clear compositions that came out of it. And but I think the material, I must say that for me to react on Harmen's music, so that these pre-written compositions, they are also coloring the rest of the record, and also the rest of the session, and it creates a certain mood in a way around it. So without these compositions, then we might have been struggling a bit more to get the clarity of the albums.
To get like a red line through the session.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm so. It is like a privilege to be a part of these settings when you have proper composers. I'm just I'm grasping in the air, but it's chords prepared from Harmen. It made all much more easier for me. Thank you, Harmen.
No, thanks. Yeah, I must say that also when we arrived and we were both checking a bit the sound for the first day of the space, and I played one chord and Arve played one note, and we even didn't realize Manfred was standing behind us, and Manfred said, "Beautiful, let's stay here." And somehow that helped as well for us. I mean, of course, it was not that he suggested to limit us only to play that kind of vibe, but for us, it became clear that we don't, indeed, what Arve also mentioned, we don't need to cover the whole spectrum. Let's just see what comes and enjoy this beautiful sound of the space and to be there together.
Yeah. So in a way, it's also not only where you two meet on this record, but where you meet with Manfred as well. Because I feel like that's exactly his approach to recording in such a session, as well as to see what happens in the moment, not to have too many preconceived ideas, everything prepared in strict forms, but actually see how the music breathes on that specific day, in that specific room. So that's also part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. We also didn't record so many tracks at the end. I forgot a bit how many, but maybe 16 takes in total or something. So it's in that sense, it was not like playing. No, focusing and then let's see what happens.
And I think there are some first takes in this collection that came on the album also. So I think there's not. And I think the Passing on the Past wasn't that Sunday recording? We recorded one track on Sunday, wasn't it? Or was it another one?
I think that was probably Passing on the Past.
Yeah, Passing on the Past, yes. Yeah, so that was the last, and that was Sunday morning first take. And then we actually stopped, I think, because then we felt that this was the... this was it. We spent quite a long time to sort of decide on titles. I expected Harmen to come up with, because I had the idea that he is reading a lot of books and had a lot of sort of titles around and philosophy about all these chords and all that stuff. But I think we just, when it came up that ECM suddenly wanted to release it, then okay, let's go into it. What can we do? And this first, it was Jon Fosse, the guy who won the Nobel Prize. This Melancholia, the first title is actually from his collection of because that was, I mean, it was the same day or something that we got the invitation to sort of start to come up with the titles, and then I was thinking, why not some Jon Fosse, because it's very lyrical, it's very sort of poetic, it's a lot of I mean, these songs can be looked at as small poetries or novels or whatever. I mean, it's I've been playing with this type of idea that of course a lot of musicians use these terms now for storytelling and that you want to distillate your playing to be clear, what maybe tell a story and blah blah blah, all these fancy way of expressing art. But there's a certain truth in it after all these years, and it's a cliche with some reason.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I think this idea that we sort of, I distillated the lyrics with these songs. The storytelling was also gradually sort of, both Harmen and me and all my colleagues, we are all sort of trying to be more and more clear with what we play, and now we have this podcast to try to put words to what we are doing. Is also challenge to be clear on and precise and to put the exact words to what we are doing, which is really absurd. But anyway, so I think this
message to our listeners: this is completely absurd.
Yeah, it is absurd because it's always. I mean, it's interesting that people want to go behind the artist, behind the music, behind the mouthpiece, behind the keys on the piano, but and that is always, what did you think when you played that note? I mean, I didn't think anything, or I thought of everything. It can be so many intentions behind. We just play this because we want to get successful and have a release on ECM to get famous. I mean, there's so many reasons for people recording for different labels, and for playing, and for so looking at a recording session, and after that try to organize the music with titles that make sense. And it is also a bit sort of and that leads me to what I'm trying to say with this touch of time, is that we just touched time in studio together at the same time we were there. And luckily Manfred was there, and Stefano was there, and we got the chance to do it, which is what we do every day. We just touch moments and time, and we try to do our best. And in these times when the horrible wars, at least two of them, that's most focused now, we just need to be aware of the privilege of being able to do releases like this, performing, and that I can sit here in my studio and just put sounds together while kids and children are being killed and slaughtered. I mean, it's like, it just, that's my point, is that it's really absurd that we can sit here and talk about this, and the world is just doing these horrible things. So that's my point of that we are going into details, but still we have to believe in what we do, and we have to continue doing that. That's the point with doing the art, that we need to try to keep to believe in this, that the chords of Harmen means so much for those who can get the chance to listen to them. And when we play together, that is, you have to believe in that, otherwise we can just it is that important.
Well, it becomes its own thing for everyone who listens to it afterwards, right? And it's going to mean something different to everyone as well. Right? That's what you mean. But still, I'm happy to hear your context of what your headspace was when recording this music. The Jon Fosse reference alone, for instance, is an interesting little side note, because when you mentioned that, I was thinking about the Sinica Langeland album that we'd released only shortly prior to your recording, which is based exclusively on poems by Jon Fosse. And the album was released just a month before Jon Fosse received the Nobel Prize. So that context obviously played a more important role in the last quarter of last year.
Absolutely. Harmen, you had something to say.
It's my favorite writer, Ben Okri, Nigerian writer. He also has this little sentence that the world needs poetry now more than ever. And it's funny because somehow this the way he writes and uses his language or world of languages or whatever gets pretty close to how I feel to play with Arve, actually. And it's funny to say because it's my favorite writer. I have all his books in my house here, and I never finished one. I just opened one somewhere, read 3 pages, and then I'm in his spectrum, you know. And in a way, I think that is what we do as well, you know. But then with sounds and something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also referring to Jon Fosse, his poetry, I got a chance when he was actually, when was this? Some of the first stuff he recorded with musicians. I think that was with Carl Seglem, the Norwegian saxophone player. And I was invited to be a part of that prosa album. And after that, I've been sort of curious about his reading because he has a very repeated kind of rhythm in his poetry. So he can he say a sentence and repeat maybe the sentence half of it. So it's like a delayed and repeated constantly in looping his own sentences. So it moves very slowly forward. And then he's he's a writer from the west coast of Norway in a very sort of Hardanger fjords and all these sort of very traditional music areas. And is this type of darkness that can be a lot of in his poetry and writings is also in a way here. There's some, for instance, the beauty of Sundays. I've been trying to like Sundays because when I was young, I thought Sundays was a really wonderful day in the morning, but in the afternoon I was so, I was
dreading Mondays.
anxious because Monday would come and then we had to go back to school because I hated school, and it was a lot of problems for me during the Sunday because and now I'm trying to sort of look at Sundays as a, even though we just Monday is coming, but now it's like, so I'm also using for myself these titles. I mean, the dark light, and all these kinds of word playing here is and red and black is also, I think, was based on Fosse. So there's some sort of the impression or the inspiration, maybe is the right word, from here and now, so it's, I didn't think of Jon Fosse when we recorded it, but I can add Jon Fosse to this now because I know that the titles were put in when he got the prize. So that is how we collect impressions. That's how we collect sounds. And when Harmen starts to play some sort of it could be Bachish or some other
progression.
Yeah. And I start to do some sort of what kind of could be some sounds inspired of John Hassel, or I can be inspired by any kind of electronic guy that I've been working with, Ivan Orset or who else, I mean, so it is like,
in a way, you could argue that in retrospect it becomes multiple touches of time,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, and that is interesting because when we do things in studio, we don't not always we are not aware of what we are doing. But as long as I manage to sort of believe in my playing, I know there's a bunch of other trumpet players and wind players that can at any point on the day play the ass out of me because I'm not able to do the things they do. But that's not the point. I think that's the calmness and the integrity that we, after many years of playing an instrument, we sort of, okay, let this guy do that, I do my thing. And I think this tranquility and this awareness of who we are is, in a way, I feel when I heard this album, when I got it now in the post, and I was sort of, yeah, I'm happy, you know, and I really sort of feel relaxed about the stuff. We have this touch of time, daily life, and we have to sort of
embrace it,
it, and be happy what we do. So
it was a bit my "What All This Is" title, basically.
Yeah,
more like a question mark, even, but also a kind of acceptance in it.
Precisely. And we talked also about using that as a title for the album.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's interesting that is still, after all these years with working with improvisation, that you see more and more the importance of improvisation in daily life and improvisation in music, and that is now, with that we got the chance to record this, is also still, after all these years with ECM recordings, releasing improvised music, or music orchestrated with the tool of improvisation, to put it the right way. I'm so, you know, it seems to be a part missing in school systems, in society in general, that the improvisation is not treated with the respect it should be.
It deserves, yeah, true.
Yeah, it deserves. So I think this album is also like a tribute to the playing. I mean, the word play, like kids do, and I think this is the simplicity of it also, and the purity and the beauty of improvisation. So that's fantastic.
Arve Henriksen and Harmen Fraanje on their new album, Touch of Time. Thank you for joining me in the ECM podcast. I'm Friedrich Kunzmann, and I look forward to present more new music from ECM very soon.